this, and we'll just go from there. Right. So I want to add a doctor. First of all, you have to add them from one of these okay, you see where it says combined? You can't add a doctor from this dashboard because this is a logical grouping of multiple dashboards all squished into one.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is you have to pick any other dashboard, and it actually doesn't matter which other dashboard you pick. And the reason why is because doctors are a resource that can be used to be on call for any dashboard that you feel like, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one piece of this. Now, if I want to add a new provider, well, first of all, let me check something here. Okay, Natasha, Katerina, you guys both have privileges in the system to do anything you want, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can add, modify anybody you feel like in the system. I just wanted to check to make sure that was accurate.
Okay, I've never even logged into this, so I think Katerina actually made me a username and password. Is it both in Trauber?
It should be.
No, it's this. Yeah, no, all usernames are unique across the entire system. So that's your username for sure for CallMyDoc. Now, if you also were going to use the app, you would have a different login identified for the app. So the way that this works is that office staff, office managers, practice managers have different levels of privileges to modify other people, et cetera, okay? Practice managers have the ability to modify, change, update anybody that they need to. And when it comes to providers and doctors, their app login is different than the login for the screen we're looking at now, the dashboard, because they play a different role. In other words, they have the app, they can write prescriptions, they can do a bunch of stuff. So normal people don't have the app access. If one person needed both a login, plus they needed to use the app too, you'd wind up giving them two different logins. Like Hannah. Okay, Hannah has a login to demo the app and to teach doctors how the app works. But then if you look at this, that's H. Faulkner. If you look at this, the practice manager login is her first and last name just because that was unique across the system. All right?
Okay.
But in any event, when I add a new doctor, just as a convention, if they're an actual doctor, if they're an MP or a PA or something like that, I normally just put their first initial and their last name. So let's say we're going to add somebody here, okay? First name, last name, give them a login. Normally I assign the password to be the same thing as their username, just by default. I can always change it later. And they have to have an email because at the beginning of it, you can retrieve your own password now before you log in. Then the other thing is they need to be associated with an ordering provider code, all right? Now the reason why that is because this is how we create the patient cases. This is one method by which we create the patient cases. In other words, if Dr. Lincoln, in this case, Dr. Lincoln, I'm going to put Dr. Lincoln on this profile, and it should be, I'm not a provider at Cahaba. But for Dr. Lincoln, what will happen is when she's on call, the patient cases will be created as clinical patient cases according to the provider code that's set up here. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if I was on call, all my patient cases would get created using Dr. Lincoln's provider code, because in Athena you have to have a provider code and you have to have a date of birth, or you can't create a patient case. Now, if I'm supposed to be on call for, You should check all these boxes by default. That's a pain in the rear. Well, I don't want to be on all these dashboards, so. I'll have them change it so the default is nothing checked. Because the point of this is that for the daytime dashboards, you don't need to assign any doctors to the daytime dashboards. As a matter of fact, let me just finish unchecking these. I'll explain to you exactly what this does. Okay, a couple of things here. First of all, when you go into the general after hours dashboard and you want to assign me to be on call, I'll be there. But if you wanted me to work, be on call for UABMW or Baptist Princeton, you'd have to check those boxes. These boxes are checked for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're checked because if I'm on call, I can see the calls that came in on that dashboard, number one. So if I would have checked these two, I would see any calls that came in for Baptist Princeton or after hours, and I could be put on call for either one of those dashboards, all right? But, you know, in most cases, it's something like that, right? I mean, it's pretty simple, unless I'm supposed to do, you know, be on call for one of these other guys. So you want to make sure that you don't need any other boxes checked except where I'm supposed to show up on that on-call schedule, because on-call schedules are associated per dashboard, okay? So each dashboard can have a different on-call schedule, a different set of prompts, a different set of behaviors, et cetera. But obviously this is already set up, so I would be on the general after hours on-call rotation schedule. You don't really need to use these. This is if you want to force a provider to be in a particular department, and most of the time it doesn't matter, okay? The only time that would matter is if you wanted to create a more complicated mapping back to task assignment overrides. But we don't need to do that because Dr. Smith's come up with a schema and it's already pre-assigned anyways. Same thing for this. In other words, what would happen is if I'm on call and any patient cases that get created that are urgent or non-urgent are going to get created using my provider ID. Again, you normally don't have to touch this. This would normally be something where you have a bunch of different specialties and people go from department to department. In other words, let's say it's a practice where there's you guys do primary care, you do endocrinology, you do gastro, you do a bunch of different specialties and you refer people from one location to another or one department to another, then we have to fool around with this because it can get way more complicated about where the patient case is supposed to wind up in Athena. But we don't need to deal with that. So then I go down here, right? You got to put in a license number. You got to put in a DEA number. You got to put in an NPI number because otherwise it can't do the prescription properly, number one. Number two, you also need a sample of their signature. Now, this signature sample never has to be perfect, okay? So let me just find an example here and I'll tell you what I mean. You see that signature? Basically, it's a scanned sample of a signature in PNG format. Mm-hmm. Now, this one's a little bit small, so I might make it like this big. Not because I have to, just because. Just as a matter of default, I kind of make these a little bit bigger. But in any event, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day because we're going to reformat automatically that signature, and we're going to load all this information into our prescription module. So I'm going to pull up a signature here, but it has to be clean. In other words, you know, if it's got a lot of background noise in it, in other words, it looks, it's not very easy to understand what the signature is. It's not going to work properly. So anyways, I double clicked on that signature, so I'm going to upload that. Now down here are my notification preferences, and also what call types I want to be able to see from my app and which call types that I don't. All right. Now, when it says display patient calls, those are urgent. So typically I'll uncheck this box because no one wants to know about billing calls after hours, right? And then I also uncheck this box because no one needs to know about new patients after hours either. And I don't want to receive non-urgent notifications. And I check this one. You see what that will do is that when it flashes on their app, it will tell them who the patient is that's calling or who the caller is, plus a phone number. So it kind of gives them a heads up before they even open the app what they're going to be looking at. The other thing is I don't want to be notified for other callers. And if I check these two boxes, what's going to happen is when a call comes in as an urgent patient call, a doctor or hospital call, or a pharmacy call, first thing it's going to do, it's going to pop my app and say you have a patient call, or a pharmacy is trying to reach you out loud on the app, plus the screen will flash like apps do. And then this column means it's also going to text me simultaneously. So I get two immediate notifications. And then if I check this column here, what that means is that if I do not open the app within 15 minutes, it's going to call me on the phone and tell me, please open the app, you have a patient call. Okay? Mm-hmm. All this other stuff down here, whoops, you don't need any of this because you're not set up like that. And the patient case types on the bottom is, you don't need to do that. I mean, this is just sort of the standard method setting up a provider. And save. Boom, I'm in the system. Now, if I go to the dashboard for the after hours, where did I put that? Oh, it's at the bottom here. General after hours. I click on schedule. And Friday, 5 to 8. But I'll just click on this. So if I want to add the new provider to the schedule, where am I? Right here, crossover. You know, and then you do your usual thing in terms of adding them to the schedule. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, it's that simple.
I have a question. The ordering provider code.
Yeah.
So is that something that like the site just kind of populates, or?
No, you have to pick it, right? So like Casey Hicks is C Hicks 48. This is how we map the provider back to their account in Athena. So that we know when they wrote a prescription or a refill. When they wrote a prescription or a refill, how should it be flagged by whom? Number one. Number two, also, this is the method by which we create patient cases, since a patient case must have a provider, ordering provider, and a patient case must have a date of birth.
That makes sense. I totally missed that. Okay, so that's just basically their Athena ID.
You got it. And that's how we create the linkage between CallMyDoc and their Athena ID,
Okay.
so that we can do other more complicated stuff like the refills and the prescriptions. And when you look at it in Athena, it looks like the whole thing originated from Athena, but in actuality, we process the entire thing from the app.
Ah, okay, okay.
Now, and the reason why I have Hicks checked off on all these boxes, because I don't actually know which on-call schedule she works with, Dr. Hicks works with, so whatever, you know, I mean, but if I knew, I'd uncheck the boxes that they don't need to be associated with, because that way, when you go in to do the scheduling thing, it shrinks this drop-down list to just the people that are able to be on call for the general after-hours dashboard.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would make it easier if we make sure they're only on the call line.
Necessary.
Oh, I would. Yeah. No. Yeah, you can go through and clean up and check any of these different profiles and this other stuff. Now, so, I mean, is this pretty straightforward?
Yes. Yeah. Very simple.
Yes.
If you have any questions, you can also, you know, obviously shoot me an email or whatever. Plus, we recorded this entire thing so you can play it back later to anybody at Cahaba or for your own usage.
Okay.
The other thing is that what I want to point out is the configuration of the prompts for these dashboards after hours have not been touched in probably a year and a half. And at this point in time, we can really fine tune these if needed to extreme levels of customizations. For instance, if the UABMW inpatient dashboard is supposed to say or do certain things, our level of customization is almost infinite at this point. In other words, 95% of everything that is in CallMyDoc can be customized to do something according to exactly what you guys want. So keep in mind when you're listening to this stuff or looking at these different things, or if you don't like the way the workflow's going, or if you don't like anything, we could customize it to do anything you could practically imagine. I mean, when we first started out with you guys, it was quite a while ago, but at this point we're in 34 states and we handle 117,000 patient calls a month. So because of the variety of practices that we're into across the country, our level of customization has become extreme in a good way. And to modify, change, add phone numbers, do anything you're looking at doesn't cost you guys a nickel extra, because that's not the way we work. So I just want to let you know all that stuff. And other than that, if you guys don't have any other questions, then what I can do is we'll just, you know, I'll save this and I'll reformat it as a MPEG-4 because it comes in some funky format, and then I'll send it to you guys as a shared link. Okay?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this.
Very helpful.
Yeah, anytime. Anytime you guys need anything, just ping me. There's always an answer somewhere. It's in here somewhere. It's just a matter of finding it. Okay?
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, you got it. Yep, take it easy. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Bye.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.